looked like a professional hit.
When Alex turned around, he put 3 bullets into his head.
But this was personal, not business. The victim had no enemies.
He was just a genuine person. He was a very, very likable person.
I just kept wondering and wondering, are they ever going to find the person that did this?
Then police discovered the horrible truth. The shooter had killed Alex Algieri thinking that he was somebody else.
The case just exploded at that point.
Investigators ran into a world of wise guy wannabes and small-time crooks.
There was a steady parade of sleazy characters.
People who hang around with hitmen are not nice people.
But the biggest shock was the mastermind behind it all.
None of us put it together. None of us.
This wasn't organized crime, it was a crime of passion.
Did you fall in love with him?
Once you knew what had happened to you, the police come to visit you. I'm Paula Zahn in New York City, and we're on the case just across the river in Long Island, New York. Our story centers around the mysterious murder of Alex Algieri. People who knew him said he had no enemies, but someone wanted him dead. That contradiction would stump police in the months that followed his cold-blooded killing. Amityville, New York, on the South Shore of Long Island. It's best remembered for a grisly real-life murder and a haunted house that became the subject of a series of Hollywood movies. 27 years later, and just a few blocks away, gunshots would shatter the peace and quiet of an Amityville night once again. It was cold on January 17th, 2001, a typical winter Wednesday night. At the Dolphin Fitness Center in the middle of town, business was booming. It was time to make good on New Year's resolutions.
January is when gyms get all the new memberships.
32-year-old Alex Algieri was an electrician by day and a gym rat by night. He was part owner of Dolphin Gym. That night, Alex was working the front desk. Just after 7:30, someone came up to Alex with a music request from the aerobics class.
Alex said that he had that CD in his car. And he went out the back door of the gym, went to his car, retrieved the CD.
Just as Alex was about to come back inside, someone walked up to him. He was holding a gun. The man said something to him and then started firing. He shot Alex 5 times at close range. The gunman then ran into a waiting van and sped off.
Alex fell to the ground, crawled into the back door.
Alex then struggled to his feet and staggered towards a crowd of stunned customers. He managed to say 3 words, "I've been shot." Then he collapsed. Immediately, everyone in the gym ran to Alex's side to help. Someone began CPR. Someone else called 911. Alex was rushed to the hospital with a faint pulse. His family waited anxiously for news.
We just sat around waiting to see what was going to happen, and then they came out and told us that he passed on.
Alex died that night of multiple gunshot wounds. His father, Sal, is still haunted by the death of his son.
We had things that we did together or we shared together that really nobody else is aware of. Right, so we had those special times.
But who would want Alex Algieri dead? Police knew right from the start this would not be an easy case to solve. Alex had no enemies and was loved by everyone who knew him.
He was just a genuine person. He was a very likable, very, very likable person. He was very easy to like. He just had a very, very good way with people.
Paul Rydell was Alex's best friend and business partner. The two opened the Dolphin Fitness Club together 3 years before.
Alex was a big part of my life. Alex was, he was my best man. Picked him to be my son's godfather.
But things with Paul and Alex weren't always good. The two fought a lot and had a major blow-up right before the murder.
Alex had actually been a little frightened being his partner and wanted out of the business.
Police learned Paul had a checkered past and a bad drug habit. He was a brawler who had been sent to prison for 6 years when he was 19.
Paul was a very rough character at the time. He was an ex-convict who had been convicted of a very violent crime. He was on parole.
Paul Rydell quickly became the #1 suspect.
The first thought we had was Paul. We had thought that Paul had something to do with it, that either he did it or he had someone else do it.
At Alex's funeral, Paul sensed that people were pointing the finger at him.
People that I knew for 10 years wouldn't sit next to me, like I was capable of something like this. You know, and I think back now, and you never get over that, because you know what? Maybe I've done a lot of things, but to think I'm capable of killing my best friend.
Suspicion was one thing, and building a case was another. There was no forensic evidence connecting Paul to the murder. Months went by, and police still were no closer to finding out who killed Alex Algieri.
They spent a long time with the myopic vision of Paul as their suspect. The police just couldn't, they couldn't seal the deal.
The case went cold.
I just kept wondering and wondering, are they ever going to find the person that did this? And I was just hoping that it would happen.
Up next, police find a missing piece of the puzzle in the most unlikely of places.
The case just exploded at that point.
Almost a year after Alex Algieri was murdered, police still had no leads. Then, a man who was arrested in another case came forward with information that would turn the investigation. He knew someone who was there the night Alex was killed. And then he dropped another bombshell. He said the bullets that killed Alex Algieri were actually meant for his best friend and business partner, Paul Rydell. Take a look at Alex Algieri and Paul Rydell, and you can see the striking physical similarities.
They were both dark-skinned. They both had dark hair. They both had mustaches or facial hair. They were both broadly built.
And they both drove the same model SUV with identical Dolphin Fitness Club stickers.
The fact that somebody exits the door that's big, that looks like Paul, and gets in what is believed to be Paul's car and retrieves a CD is what ended up in Alex Algieri's murder.
The investigation shifted. It was no longer about who killed Alex. It was about who wanted Paul Rydell dead. Paul had spent time in prison. He was a drug user. And at the time of Alex's murder, he had a lot of enemies.
There were rumors that about a week or so earlier, he had got into a verbal altercation with a mob captain in a restaurant. He had a lot of baggage, to put it mildly.
Nobody, and I believe nobody, thought that that shot was meant for Alex. I believe everybody came to the same conclusion, that it was Paul that they were, whoever it was looking for.
Even Paul had told family and friends that he thought the bullets were meant for him.
That would be the way that I grew up, is the first thought to say, hey, maybe this is for me. I mean, I need to protect myself.
And protect his family. Paul was a married man. He talked with his wife, Leanne, about the murder.
He said, oh my God, this was for me, is what he said, because he had some, I don't know, some problem with some illegal stuff that he was doing.
One of the first things he did, believing that there might be a mafia contract on in his life, was come to my office and do a will, leaving everything that he owned to Leanne.
Paul was so paranoid that right after Alex was killed, he moved Leanne and the couple's son down to Florida for their safety.
There was just so many things going on because Alex was murdered. Nobody knew who murdered Al. Paul was going crazy, saying, you know, you have to get out of New York.
Thought it was the best thing that she go to Florida, even if she was safe, she could be there, and just in case anything was going on.
Police still had no leads. Then they got their first big break from an informant who gave them a name, Scott Paget. Paget was there at the scene of the crime.
That pretty much got the ball rolling, and really, the case just exploded at that point.
Paget lived in Florida. Detectives went there to talk with him. At first, he wasn't cooperative.
They interviewed Scott Paget, who initially denied ever being, I think once he denied ever being in New York. On the second visit, he said he was in New York once, but it was a long time ago. And I think the police, realized that he was telling lots of little lies. And when people tell little lies, it's usually because they're covering up a big lie.
Scott Paget was a bouncer at a strip club with a very bad drug habit and a lot of debt. Police knew Paget held the key to solving the case, so they decided to work him hard.
Detectives just kept up the pressure. They kept revisiting him. They kept showing up at different places and really tightening the noose. And eventually Paget spilled the beans, implicating Ralph Salerno.
In a story filled with shady characters, Ralph Salerno, also known as Rocco, was about to get a starring role. Paget began to sing. Salerno was the one who killed Alex Algieri, thinking that he was Paul Rydell. He told detectives that he met Ralph at a gym in Delray Beach. They barely knew each other, but Ralph said he was headed to New York for a hit and needed a driver. He offered Paget $3,000, and the deal was done. In the interrogation room, police were getting an earful. Paget said Ralph made the arrangements for the trip north, including renting a white van and getting a small revolver.
January 17th, 2001, Ralph Salerno and Scott Paget had driven up from Florida to Suffolk County, New York, with the sole intention of killing a person by the name of Paul Rydell.
The men pulled into the Dolphin Fitness Club parking lot around 7:30 p.m. armed with a .38 caliber revolver and a description of Paul Rydell and his SUV.
Alex drove the same exact vehicle as Paul did, parked in the same exact parking spot as Paul did, had the same exact decal on the back of his vehicle that Paul did.
Paget said as soon as he and Ralph got to the parking lot, they spotted what they thought was Paul's SUV. It was actually Alex's. Paget said he backed the rental van into a parking spot and waited. A few minutes later, Alex Algieri came out of the gym and walked to his SUV.
They mistakenly thought he was Paul Rydell. Ralph Salerno exited the vehicle, walked up to him with a loaded .38 caliber revolver, said, "Hey, Paul." This person, who it turned out was not Paul Rydell, turned his attention towards the person that had yelled his partner's name and was shot 5 times.
After the shooting, Paget told police that Ralph jumped into the van and they took off. As they made their getaway, Paget said they passed police cars with their lights flashing and sirens blaring. Ralph told him he needed to get rid of his gun. About a mile down the road, he watched as Ralph opened the passenger side window and threw the pistol into a nearby creek. The 2 men drove off into the night and didn't stop till they were back in Florida. The next day, he and Ralph Salerno read an article online about the murder and were shocked to discover the dead man was actually Alex Algieri, not Paul Rydell. They had just murdered the wrong man. Police tracked down Ralph Salerno and uncovered a disturbing new theory. Ralph was crazy in love, but with whom? And did that affair lead to murder?
He was nice to her, and he made her feel special. He made her feel good.
In April 2002, Scott Paget and Ralph Salerno were arrested for the murder of Alex Algieri. Police knew the killing was a tragic case of mistaken identity. The bullets that ended Alex's life were actually meant for his business partner, Paul Rydell, but police still needed to find a motive. The shooting had all the signs of a mob hit. Ralph Salerno had New York connections and knew a lot of wise guys. But police would soon find out from Ralph himself that this was no mob hit. Ralph Salerno was a man in love, and the woman in his life was none other than Leanne Rydell, Paul's wife. To understand why Ralph Salerno would have committed the murder, police knew they'd have to dig into the rocky marriage between Paul and Leanne. The couple met in 1998. Leanne was working as a bartender at a Long Island strip club to support her 12-year-old son, Christopher.
When Leanne met Paul, she was really, really happy.
The two began to date, and 6 months later, Leanne was pregnant.
I know that at that point I knew that we should get married, and I tried, I thought those were the right things to do.
At first, the newlyweds were happy with a baby on the way, but the honeymoon wouldn't last long. Paul was a heavy drug user. Leanne said he would verbally abuse her when he was high. She was terrified of his erratic behavior. For the first time, Leanne Rydell talks candidly about her life with Paul.
His behavior I blamed on the drugs all the time, and I thought that I could help him, and I loved him, and truly believed with all my heart that he would change.
Did things change when the two of you had a son together?
No, he would change for a little bit, and then he would go back to his ways.
Did I do drugs? Yes. Am I proud of it? No. Is it all part of who I am today? Yeah. I mean, I've learned my lessons the hard way. She absolutely knows that I would never put my hands on her, because I never did. Was she afraid of me? See, I completely disagree with that.
Leanne's son Christopher was in his early teens when his mom married Paul. He wasn't too fond of his stepfather.
He was like a pit bull. You can never trust him. Good for only a certain amount of time, until he snapped.
When Paul was using drugs, Leanne couldn't take it. She left him about a dozen times, but she'd always come back a few days later.
Did he threaten to hurt you physically?
Yes.
Beat you up? Did he ever threaten to kill you?
Yes. He would apologize, and I would go back thinking that, okay, this is the time he's not going to do it anymore, and I would go back to him.
It just became the routine of their life.
Protection against Paul in Florida.
There was a lot of fear. A lot of fear. Paul's a big guy. And Leanne, there were 3 women. Leanne's a little girl. And there was no way that any of us were going to be able to protect ourselves from Paul.
Did I ever threaten her that I was going to do something to her when she was in Florida? Absolutely not. Because I knew then I would have never seen my son.
But Leanne claimed the threats continued, and she was terrified. That's when she got herself into a situation that would change her life forever. Liz Russo, her mother's girlfriend, was a tough character. Originally from New York City, she told people that she grew up across the street from John Gotti. She would often brag about all her mob connections. Liz told Leanne that she knew some people that could protect her.
You had a relationship with a guy named Ralph Salerno. How did he come into your life?
He was friends of my mom's friend. So she had called her friends over and asked if Paul shows up here, would you stand up to Paul? And that's how this whole thing started.
Enter Ralph Salerno. He and a friend came to the house to discuss the Paul situation. It would prove to be a fateful meeting.
And they asked what they could do. Liz turned around and said, maybe you could just beat him up, or, maybe he should get his legs broken, he's so rotten.
So you actually heard Liz say that?
I did hear Liz
to
say
Ralph.
that. But
scare him a little, hurt him physically.
Yes.
Did she ever say kill him?
Never. I said, I don't want to hear this. This is Nicholas's father, and I don't want to hear this.
Leanne says she put an end to any conversation about hurting her husband, Paul. But she did like talking with Ralph. There was something about him that attracted her.
He was nice to her, and he made her feel special. He made her feel good.
And Ralph was completely smitten with her. The two began having an affair.
Did you fall in love with him?
I fell in love with the way he made me feel about myself, and I wished so badly that my husband felt what he felt for me, because truly I loved Paul.
Meanwhile, back in New York, Paul was off the drugs and desperate to get his son Nicholas back home. And he had a legal way to do it. He filed for divorce.
I wanted to see my son, and I didn't want him in Florida, thousands of miles away from me.
The law in New York is simple. Once Paul filed for divorce, Leanne would have to live within 50 miles of him so he could see his son.
There was no contact of any type between Leanne, Paul, the baby, and the state of Florida, so the judge directed Leanne to return to the state of New York with the baby or face loss of custody.
Leanne was not happy with that arrangement. She had made clear to many people, especially her mother and her mother's friend, that she wanted to live in Florida and she wanted to live away from Paul Rydell.
By leaving Florida, Leanne also had to leave Ralph Salerno. He begged her to stay.
I believe he loved me. He told me he loved me.
Leanne was torn, but she had no choice. She returned to New York with Nicholas and the box of money in November 2001. She had told everyone she would never go back to Paul. Now that he was off drugs, everything was different. Leanne and Paul started dating again, but they still had a court date for the divorce hearing.
Paul and Leanne and Nicholas came into the courtroom together with the baby in a stroller, holding hands, advising that they had reconciled.
Paul announced in court that he wanted to drop the divorce proceedings because he and Leanne were back together. When Ralph Salerno found out, he was outraged.
I know he was getting frustrated with me that I kept going back to him. A lot of people were getting frustrated with me for going back to him.
What would Ralph say to you? How did you know he was frustrated with you?
He'd say, just come down here. Why don't you just come to Florida? You know, why are you staying with this guy? I don't know. Why do you keep going back with him?
Rocco would very freely and openly express his, the only word I can think of is anger.
But was Ralph Salerno angry enough to commit murder? The thought had crossed Leanne's mind.
And what made you think that?
I don't know, but I said to Liz, you don't think that it has anything to do with Ralph?
And what did she say?
She said, no, if he wanted to kill Paul, he would have killed Paul.
Paul, meanwhile, was in a state of panic. The shooting had left him spooked, and he was afraid for the safety of his family. Even though they had just returned to New York, he moved Leanne and Nicholas back to Florida.
He said, you know what, even though I just spent the entire summer of 2000 fighting to get you back, your safety, and most of all, the safety of my son, are the most important things in my life.
By this time, Paul was living in Florida with Leanne, but flying back and forth to New York to take care of business at the gym. Then, Leanne became pregnant with her third child. Paul was thrilled. He felt his married life had never been happier. But Leanne wasn't on the same page, not even close. She wanted out of her marriage for good. When Paul was on a business trip to New York, she served him with divorce papers.
I knew that I had the choice to make when I was pregnant, Paul or the baby, and I chose the baby.
Up next, why would Leanne be forced to make a choice between her husband and her baby? Detectives would unravel yet another incredible turn of events. Authorities were ready to close the book on the murder of Alex Algieri. Ralph Salerno admitted to the shooting in the Dolphin Gym parking lot. He told police he accidentally killed Alex, and the man he meant to murder was Paul Rydell, the husband of the woman he loved. But Ralph had another confession, one that would turn the case upside down all over again. In April 2002, police took Ralph Salerno into custody for the murder of Alex Algieri. When he started talking, what he told them was shocking. Ralph said that he and Leanne Rydell didn't end their affair after her reconciliation with Paul, and they continued seeing each other even after the murder of Alex Algieri. If they didn't believe him, Ralph had proof. Leanne's new baby boy, born less than a year after the murder, wasn't Paul's. It was his.
The hitman that killed Alex was actually the father of Leanne's third child. Let's face it, the chances of that happening by coincidence are like 1 in a trillion. So I knew immediately that Leanne had to be involved in this.
Police were now beginning to believe that Leanne Rydell was involved in the murder at the Dolphin Gym. They suspected the whole thing might be the work of a cunning, manipulative woman. Their theory? After Leanne fell in love with Ralph Salerno, the new couple planned a life together in Florida. But when Leanne was forced by a court to relocate back to New York, she made a deadly decision. The only way she and Ralph could be together was if her husband Paul was out of the picture.
When she went back after the custodial relocation order, whether it was scare Paul or break his legs, the directions changed from that to, I want him dead.
According to police, Leanne knew she would be a suspect if Paul was murdered while they were in the process of a divorce. So when she arrived back in New York, she pretended to reconcile with Paul.
When her husband was killed, she could, portray the grieving widow, the grieving, distraught, devastated widow.
But the entire plan fell apart when instead of killing Leanne's husband, Ralph Salerno mistakenly murdered Alex Algieri.
Once Ralph Salerno and Scott Padgett were arrested, the police still did not have enough evidence to arrest Leanne. They wholeheartedly believed that she was involved.
With no direct evidence linking Leanne to the crime, it took detectives almost a year to build a case against her. Police interviewed more than a dozen of Ralph's friends who all claimed Ralph told them that he was going to kill Paul on Leanne's orders. But they needed to find someone who had actually heard Leanne say it. They found that person, Michael Paglianti, a convicted drug dealer.
Michael Paglianti basically was the only person that could say that he heard Leanne say that she wanted Paul Rydell dead.
Paglianti told police that he was in the room when Leanne told Ralph she wanted her husband dead. With his information, in March 2003, Leanne Rydell was arrested and charged with murder. From the beginning, Leanne has denied any involvement.
So are you telling me at no time ever did you have a conversation with Ralph about harming your husband?
I never had a conversation with Ralph about
a single
Paul.
Conversation?
No.
He knew you were terrified of Paul.
It doesn't matter. I loved him. It doesn't matter what fears I had for Paul. I never asked anybody to hurt him.
So why do you think Ralph then set off to New York to kill him?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer for Ralph. I don't know if he thought that would be it and I would never be able to go back to Paul. I just know that I never asked anybody to hurt him.
Leanne says police had it all wrong. She did end things with Ralph after she moved back to New York. Her reconciliation with Paul was real. She also said Ralph became enraged when he found out she was back with her husband.
One time in December, actually, he was really angry, and he called my brother's house looking for me, and I had gone to a Christmas party for the Dolphin Gym with my husband, and he was pretty pissed off about that, actually.
And how long was that before Alex's murder?
A couple of weeks.
When Leanne reconciled with Paul, Ralph saw his lady and perhaps whatever money he thought was coming to them starting to slip away. And as it became clearer and clearer that this reconciliation was real, Ralph Salerno did what he did.
Leanne says after the murder, Paul just wasn't the same. He was crazy with paranoia, and things between them soured. Soon, she was back with Ralph Salerno. But Leanne claims Ralph never gave her any indication he had killed Alex Algieri.
I didn't know that Ralph killed Al until the detectives knocked at my door. Zachary was already born.
Ralph's child?
Yes. Yes, and they told me, you know he did this? I didn't.
But police weren't buying it, and they were hoping a jury wouldn't either. In February of 2004, Leanne Rydell and Ralph Salerno had their day in court. In an unusual move, Suffolk County prosecutors decided to try both of them together.
There were two trials that would be sitting in the same courtroom at the same time, but two separate jurors.
Leanne's attorney objected to the double trial, but the judge overruled him. The prosecution laid out its case and started to call witnesses.
Throughout the trial, there was literally a steady parade of sleazy characters that came in and out of that courtroom to testify. It seemed like everybody had a criminal record.
Michael Pagliani was the prosecution's star witness. He told the jury he heard Leanne order her husband's murder. Leanne didn't testify in her trial and is telling her version of what happened for the first time.
In your case, there were a number of witnesses who basically said they either overheard you telling Ralph Salerno, I want him expletive dead.
Right.
And 3 potential locations where he could be found.
Right.
To be killed.
Which never happened. And that's Mike Pagliante. And it never happened. I never said those things.
You deny you ever said that?
I never discussed my husband around Mike. I was so surprised when my lawyer told me that Mike Pagliante was the witness. I was actually happy, thinking, oh my God, maybe this guy can help me.
Why would he make that up? Why would he say that he overheard you saying, I want him expletive dead? He had you turning over photograph of your husband?
Right, which there never was. The only thing that I was informed, Mike Pagliante had gotten himself in trouble and was facing prison time. He implicated me. Not only did he implicate me, he implicated my mother and Liz. And I never said those things. And I never gave Ralph a picture or directions.
But the prosecution was making its point about Leanne Rydell.
If I was a juror, it would be very hard to wonder what everybody's agenda was, and it would be very easy to say, this Leanne, she looks kind of sweet and she looks kind of innocent, but she certainly hangs around with some pretty dangerous characters.
Her attorney pointed out that Pagliani was facing major prison time for a federal drug charge and made a deal with prosecutors in exchange for his testimony. Terms of that deal were never disclosed.
Michael Paglianti bought his freedom with lying and saying whatever it was that he was told he needed to say to keep himself out of jail.
Pagliani wasn't the only one with a deal. Leanne's attorney argued that Scott Paget, Ralph Salerno's accomplice, and most of the state's witnesses had some kind of deal with the prosecution.
We all know people lie. They lie in their daily lives. We know people lie on the stand. And when you add the idea that I'm looking at jail time and a lot of jail time, now, if I testify and do the right thing, I can avoid that.
Leanne Rydell sat in the courtroom as witness after witness testified against her.
Describe to us what you were thinking, what you were feeling.
You can't even put into words, honestly, what I felt. But I sat and I did what my lawyer said. And believed in my lawyer and hoped that the people didn't believe what he said.
But it wasn't just Michael Pagliani.
I know.
By that time, the district
understand.
attorney had basically said...
Made a whole...
Yeah, that you had carefully hatched this plan.
Mm-hmm.
You were the one in charge. You were the one that engaged Ralph. You wanted Paul dead.
It's not true. That's all I could say is it's not true.
In his closing statement, Leanne's attorney told jurors that there was no evidence to find her guilty. No DNA, no fingerprints, nothing. Nothing but the testimony of witnesses who made deals with the prosecutor. James Kasouras is Leanne's attorney for her appeal. He did not represent her at trial.
You have Pagliante's testimony, which we would submit is absolutely self-serving, incredible, and does not make sense. But there's no other evidence. There is no other evidence that indicates knowledge on her part. None whatsoever.
Ralph and Leanne learn their fate. Up next, the verdicts. Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/PaulaZahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes videos. For 5 weeks, 2 juries listened to a twisted tale of love and remorse. The confusing murder trials of Leanne Rydell and Ralph Salerno. They seemed to raise as many questions as they answered. The only thing that was certain was that the wrong man had been killed. Alex Algieri was murdered when the intended target was actually Paul Rydell. The issues in front of the juries were muddled. Was it a misguided act of jealousy committed by Ralph alone? Or was it all a deadly plan hatched by Leanne Rydell? In March 2004, Leanne Rydell and Ralph Salerno waited as their juries deliberated. Ralph's jury came back after only 4 hours. He was found guilty on all counts, including murder in the first degree. Ralph Salerno was sentenced to life in prison.
There was never any question about Ralph Salerno being guilty, in our opinion. But we were on the fence, and we were going back and forth about whether or not Leanne was guilty.
Leanne's defense was that Ralph acted alone because he was jealous she had reunited with her husband.
There was no motive at all for Leanne Rydell to do this. There was every motive, on the other hand, for Salerno to do what he did.
Leanne's jury wrestled with its decision for 4 days. The jurors went back and forth asking for testimony to be reread. Finally, they too reached a verdict: guilty. If you had listened to the testimony that the jury had listened to, would you have convicted you too?
Yes. I said, oh my God, look at this girl. You know, look at her. She's guilty. But I feel, you know, in my trial, there was 2 juries, and there was, it was just so confusing. And so the DA puts on this fabulous story, and it's believable, but it's not what happened.
Leanne should have been on that stand. Leanne should have put her hand on a Bible so that even if one person would have believed that this girl was telling the truth, she may not be there.
I think if I was on that jury, from what I saw, I don't think I would have been able to convict her of murder, because I think there would have been that little glimmer of doubt.
But for others, there is no doubt Leanne Rydell is where she belongs.
She hired somebody to kill this man so that she could carry on an affair with her lover in Florida. She is as guilty as Charles Manson.
Leanne's now at the Bedford Hills Correctional Facility in Westchester County, New York, serving a 25-year to life sentence. To this day, she still maintains her innocence.
I think that's what actually gets me through it, is knowing that I am not responsible for what happened, and that somewhere, some way, I'm gonna get out of here. And, you know, things happen for a reason. I have children that I have to be strong for, and a family, and I just know that God has a bigger plan for me, and it's not Bedford Hills.
Since the trial, Paul Rydell divorced Leanne. He now has full custody of their son, Nicholas. He's remarried with a new baby girl.
And what did he say to you when he heard you were implicated in this plot to kill him?
I don't think Paul believes that I was behind this. I know Paul, he might want to believe that I was behind this, but I think deep down Paul knows who I really am. I think Paul just wants to go on with his life and not be constantly reminded of things, and I understand that.
But Paul, the intended victim, thinks Leanne deserves what she got. He still mourns his friend Alex Algieri.
He's gone, and this is something you can't take back. You know, you have to pay the price for that, and you know, it sucks. Am I like clapping in the background? No, I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible for Al. I think it's terrible for her. I think it's terrible for everybody.
Murderous schemer. It may be many more years before Leanne Rydell is allowed that freedom. A few years ago, Paul changed the name of his gym to honor the memory of his best friend and business partner, Alex Algieri. What was once known as the Dolphin Fitness Club is now called Big Al's.
You like people to remember you, and this would be a way that, you know, people can remember him and always keep his memory alive. And, you know, we try to run the gym with integrity so, you know, we can honor him well. And, you know, I think he'd be happy about that.
Sal Algieri doesn't need any reminding. He says his son is always with him.
There's that old song, there's always something there to remind me, and that's just basically the way it is. Sometimes I'll be driving along and I could just feel that he's sitting next to me.
While she doesn't see her own children often, Leanne does get a chance to spend time with kids. She works in the prison nursery, helping care for the newborn children of other prisoners. That's all for this time. I'm Paula Zahn. See you here next time when we're back on the case. Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/Paula Zahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video.
I remember just saying to my lawyer, oh my God, Bruce, say something. This is not true. You have to say something. And really, he would tell me, don't worry. It's not going to happen. But I would feel so terrible that this is what people believe, and I've never said those things.
In Las Vegas, it can be hard to tell the winners from the losers.
These casinos weren't built on winners, that's for sure.
Ted Binion was casino royalty, a man with a ton of money and a ton of secrets.
The Binion family was a very powerful family in this community. There's no question about it.
When he died, Ted left behind a buried treasure and a rogues gallery of players who wanted a piece of it.
All this stuff, when I left my house, was in the garage and it's all been taken out.
It started as a medical mystery.
The initial manner of death by our office was undetermined.
Turned into a murder mystery.
Typical Las Vegas. Money, sex, and drugs. You couldn't make this stuff up.
And ended up as the trial of the century, Vegas style.
The only way they could live their lives happily ever after together was to kill Ted Binion.
Sometimes it's hard to keep a lid on what happens in Vegas.
The atmosphere was absolutely a circus.
I've never seen a judge do that in my life.
What more can an innocent person do?
High stakes and high drama in Sin City. Once you knew what had happened to you, the police come to visit you. Hi, I'm Paula Zahn in New York City, and we are on the case in Sin City. People come to Las Vegas for all kinds of reasons, but just about everyone who visits here would like to strike it rich. In this story, two people, a young woman from California and an aspiring businessman from Montana, came to Vegas chasing the same dreams that draw millions every year. only they got more than they bargained for. It is a tale of drugs, power, and buried treasure. And it all began with a mysterious death.
We picked up a call for a male in cardiac arrest. It was literally a minute away. We got there, we were met in the driveway by Miss Murphy, who was hysterical and told us he's dead, he's dead. We went in, she led us to the room where he was, and he was obviously dead before we even got to him. He was gray.
September 17th, 1998. 54-year-old Ted Binion, heir to a casino fortune, was found dead in his living room. The woman who discovered the body wasn't Binion's wife. She was Sandy Murphy, Ted's live-in girlfriend. Murphy was so overcome that paramedics had to strap her to a gurney and take her to nearby Valley Hospital. 3 hours later, a detective attempted to question her about what happened.
Sandy, can you tell me what happened this morning up until this afternoon when you found Ted? Sandy, did you give him any heroin today? Did you give him any? Sandy, when was the last time you saw him alive?
When I left the You go through a series of phases, I think, after someone you love dies, especially under the circumstances in which Teddy left.
Many years have gone by, and Sandy Murphy still has a lot of questions about what happened to Ted Binion.
I would beat myself up and say, well, maybe if I would have came home earlier, then maybe I could have saved him. You know, maybe if I would have never left that day, but you know, maybe I would have known that there was something wrong. This whole ordeal kind of took on a life of its own, and it just continued to spiral into this horrible thing.
Ted's life had been spiraling downward for quite a while. Most of his troubles stem from his battle with drug addiction.
People who knew Ted knew that he had been into drugs for years. I mean, you couldn't be around him and not know it. And he was doing prescription drugs, Valium, Xanax. And then the tar heroin, I think maybe he thought because he wasn't shooting up, it wasn't as bad. He was doing Chase the Dragon, where you heat it, and then you sniff the fumes.
In the beginning, he used to hide it. And then after a while, you know, I became aware, obviously, with all the paraphernalia and the stuff that goes along with it. And then it wasn't a secret anymore, and he just did it out in the open every day, all day long.
I just think the guy was on just a downhill slope.
Las Vegas police detectives and paramedics agreed. Ted Binion appeared to be a victim of a simple drug overdose. But if your family name is Binion and you live in Las Vegas, nothing is that simple. The Binion family legend starts here on Glitter Gulch, the old Vegas Strip. Back in the 1950s, this was the hotspot. And right smack in the middle of the action was the Horseshoe Casino, Binion's Horseshoe Casino. Benny Binion taught his oldest son, Jack, how to run the business side of the casino. He was a hard worker and a quiet force behind the scene. Benny's youngest son, Ted, was his clear favorite, the one who reminded him most of himself. Wild, a hard edge, a man's man.
Ted Binion was groomed to work in the casino, and everybody knew him. He was powerful because of his father.
But Ted had a weakness that his father couldn't stand. Ted Binion was a junkie.
If you're not there every day to see it, then, you know, it's very easy to be misled by a drug addict. They're very clever.
Ted wasn't always so clever. In 1987, he was convicted of drug possession, and his gambling license was suspended. It was the beginning of a downward slide. After his father died in 1989, Ted, his brother Jack, and their youngest sister Becky began to battle for control of the casino. There were lawsuits, death threats, shady deals. The Binion siblings became bitter enemies.
As time went on, his relationship with his sister, Becky Bennon, was failing. There was a drive-by shooting at the house that was never solved.
More trouble followed. In 1993, the Nevada Gaming Commission suspended Ted Binion for associating with organized crime members like Herbert Fat Herb Blitzstein and Tony the Ant Spilotro. In 1998, just a year before he died, authorities permanently revoked Ted's license. Ted Binion, Benny's favorite boy, was effectively banned from walking into his own casino.
Well, it haunted him because he said it was the only thing that he knew how to do. And it was purpose in his life, and they took away his livelihood and his purpose, and he kind of lacked drive.
When Ted Binion turned up dead, it just seemed like the end of a long, troubled road.
The information we had that afternoon from the detectives at the scene, it looked like an apparent drug overdose. And knowing Teddy's reputation, that was no surprise.
What were your first thoughts?
What a tragedy. I mean, I know that he was trying real hard to straighten himself out and just get everybody off his back so that he could live his life. I know he wanted to go, start fishing, going up north fishing, and spend more time at his ranch in Pahrump and advance his relationship with his girlfriend. And so it's a tragedy. I don't know the specifics. That's why I'm here, guys.
Many of Ted's longtime friends didn't even know who this man was and why he had taken it upon himself to talk with reporters on the day Ted died. His name is Rick Tabish.
Rick Tabish was a businessman who was coming in and out of Las Vegas and met Ted Binion.
They struck up an immediate friendship. Ted told Rick about his vast collection of silver, which he had stored in the basement of his family's casino. Rick told Ted he could handle the job of managing the silver. Ted Binion's decision to enlist Rick's help would prove fateful for both men and help trigger one of the most amazing stories in Sin City history. Up next, was Ted Binion's death a tragic overdose or something far more sinister?
This whole case is just typical Las Vegas. Money, sex, and drugs.
Just before his death, Ted Binion's drug addiction led to the end of two important relationships in his life. First, it broke up his marriage of 15 years to his wife, Doris, and then it led to the end of a lifelong association with his casino. In the hours after his death, police thought that Ted Binion was simply another lost soul swallowed up by the temptations of Sin City. But it would not be long before authorities suspected foul play and were taking a hard look at Ted's newest friends, Sandy Murphy and Rick Tabish. Lots of men visit strip clubs in Vegas during their lunch hour. Cheetah's Lounge was one of Ted's favorite joints back in 1995. He was on the outs with his wife Doris and starting to party harder than ever. Ted would rent out the VIP room for a few hours. And it was here that Binion met a 23-year-old. Her name was Sandy Murphy.
When I first met him, he was a little aggressive. And then throughout the evening, he got real jovial and continued to drink and was a lot more fun and interesting as the evening went on.
Despite the age difference, the two were drawn to each other in the low light of the VIP lounge.
He didn't really seem that much older than me. Teddy's really young at heart, and he's like this person that's bigger than life, and he's extremely intelligent, and he's really good looking, and he was pretty fit when I met him.
Sandy claims she was unaware of who Ted Binion was or how much money he had, even after he waved a fistful of dollars in front of her face. Sandy could have used the cash. Just that week, she gambled away most of her savings.
I think that, these casinos weren't built on winners, that's for sure.
Sandy's luck was about to change. With Ted Binion's backing, she would soon be playing with Binion casino money. Things moved fast between them. Sandy became Ted's steady girlfriend, and even though his divorce wasn't final, she moved into his stately home. Just over a year later, The couple signed a cohabitation agreement, which entitled Sandy to a few valuable pieces of art and a small stock portfolio.
He gave her credit on credit cards. I mean, she was going and getting her hair done at the highest end places. And he bought her a car. He bought her a Mercedes-Benz. I mean, he bought her art, lots of pieces of art.
Well, certainly, she's living with Teddy, introducing herself as Mrs. Binion, around town. She had access to a lot of Teddy's wealth.
And his legacy. As the two grew closer together, Ted changed his will to include Sandy.
Ted left Sandy his house, which at the time of his death was worth anywhere from $900,000 to $1 million. The contents of his house, which meant all the artwork and that sort of thing too, and $300,000 in cash.
But as time went on, Sandy would become more Ted's caretaker than lover. By 1998, Ted was battling with his siblings over control of the business, and his escalating heroin addiction was slowly destroying everything around him.
When he started using the heroin, he kind of alienated himself from me. And, it affected our personal life at home. There was no activity in the bedroom. All those things stopped.
Sandy's attempts to reach out to Ted were more often than not ignored.
Well, Teddy's a little difficult character, and he's his own man, and he likes to be very much the boss and in charge of himself. And if anyone tries to tell him that he needs to cut his hair or change a shirt or take a shower or do anything that would benefit himself, he would be adverse to that. He just is his own man.
In the months leading up to his death, the two were frequently seen arguing in public. Sandy says she called the Las Vegas police on 2 separate occasions.
There's been several incidents between the two of us to where he's been high, and he would forget that I was me, and he would call me his ex-wife, and he would, lash out and abuse me, and obviously he wasn't in his right state of mind.
It wasn't an easy guy to get along with all the time, and he had a reputation for getting in fights and stuff when he was younger.
And Ted's fights were not just at home. In 1998, Ted lost the biggest fight of his life when his sister Becky wrested control of the casino from him. Ted had to move out of his office and was forced to remove from the casino his most private and cherished possession, his king-size collection of silver bullion and rare coins that he stored in a vault in the basement. Ted weighed his options. He could sell the silver or do something his family is famous for, bury it.
Well, the Binions were known for burying money. I mean, it wasn't anything new in the Binion family, certainly. They didn't trust banks or something. They didn't want everybody to know, or the IRS to know, how much money they had.
And Ted had just met the right man to secretly bury his mountain of silver, his new friend, Rick Tabish. Ted gave Rick $40,000 to build an underground vault at his ranch in Pahrump, Nevada. The new friendship and the business connection was just what Rick Tabish needed.
He was hanging out at places where the movers and the shakers go, and I think Rick was looking to make some connections business-wise here in Las Vegas, and he was making them through Ted Binion.
Rick Tabish granted On the Case a telephone interview to talk about his role in the Ted Binion story.
He was just an interesting guy. His shortcomings was the drugs, and that was a problem. However, I met a lot of people through Ted over there. He was Binion. I mean, if you're down in Las Vegas, you talk to people, and he was the guy.
In July of 1998, Rick Tabish buried millions of dollars in Ted Binion's silver in the vault at Pahrump, Nevada, at Ted's request. Ted also gave Rick the only other key to unlock the vault. For Rick, there was another unexpected fringe benefit from doing business with Ted. When he was strung out, Ted needed an escort for Sandy.
He was calling me all the time, asking if I'd take her to a movie. He was messed up on heroin. He had his own agenda. So, he basically, threw us together.
Ted just kind of appointed Rick, and Rick kind of took over, sort of unofficially. It would be more like, Rick, get her out of here. She's just driving me crazy.
Sandy and Rick would begin to see a lot more of each other. They would meet at Rick's condo.
And there's only one bedroom in the apartment, and apparently From all indications, they were both sleeping in the same bed with both of their clothes in the closet. So it looked to me like they were living together.
The two traveled to Beverly Hills and checked into exclusive hotels registered as Mr. and Mrs. Tavish.
Well, just at one point, like in the moment of weakness, you know, I made a mistake. I had an indiscretion with Rick while I was out of town.
In Rick Tavish, Ted was getting much more than he had bargained for.
Tavish presented himself to be Teddy's friend, you know, that he was helping Teddy out, even though it was apparent that maybe he was sleeping with his girlfriend. So he maybe wasn't the best friend to Teddy Binion.
Within 2 months, Ted Binion would be dead. Investigators would later find out that he had purchased 12 bags of black tar heroin from a local drug dealer the night before he died. On top of that, Ted had convinced his next-door neighbor, a physician, to write him a prescription for Xanax. Both of those drugs were found in Ted's stomach. But exactly how they got there was a mystery.
Rescue 5 dispatch. Is this natural? It appears natural, yes.
When we rolled his body over, we found an empty bottle of Xanax. It had 100.5 milligrams Xanax. It was empty, and it had been filled the day before. So I immediately called it in as a suspected suicide.
They didn't treat it like a crime scene. They treated it like an overdose death. So it wasn't a whole lot of seriousness wasn't taken at the scene to preserve it.
The first officers on the scene eventually alerted the homicide squad. But the consensus was that Ted died of a drug overdose.
20/20 hindsight, I would have preferred to have been at the scene.
Coming up, police and the Binion family build a case against Sandy Murphy and Rick Tavish. To many in Vegas, Ted Binion's death wasn't a surprise. He had a long history of drug abuse. His addiction had pushed him so far from his family that by the time he died, the people closest to him were Sandy Murphy and Rick Tavish. Now the investigation was turning up information that suggested Sandy and Rick also had the most to gain from Ted's death. As suspicions deepened, the Binion family did everything in their power to make sure that each would get nothing.
It's too soon now to determine if it was accidental or if it was intentional.
3 hours after they found Ted, detectives began to probe deeper into the mystery of his death. But their interview with Sandy Murphy was proving to be difficult.
Sandy, when was the last time you saw him alive?
When I left
Other problems began to surface in the investigation.
At the scene, like I said, he was found dead lying on the floor of the den on a sleeping bag. Detective at the scene told me that it looked like the scene may have been cleaned up.
Nothing out of order. Immaculate. Beautiful. Beautiful house. Dogs swimming in the pool in the backyard.
A number of inconsistencies in Sandy's story were popping up, and they raised red flags with detectives.
When she came home and made the 911 call, it didn't seem to match the approximate time of death. So it looked like she was creating an alibi, and the time sequence didn't really seem to fit when the 911 call was made.
Within hours of his death, Ted's sister Becky, who had fought so bitterly with him, began to pressure detectives to take a harder look at the case. Becky told police Ted had to have been murdered, and police say she focused much of her suspicion on Sandy Murphy.
I had a quick chat with her on the phone, and it went sideways quickly. And she was hostile and had made a few derogatory comments to me regarding my home and my position.
According to Sandy, Becky threatened to kick her out of the house she shared with Ted for the past 3 years, and to make sure Sandy would never see any of Ted's money.
I was so distraught. I'd lost my husband, but not really my husband, the person that meant the most to me in the world and who protected me. And then now he's gone, and I'm sort of left to be eaten by all the wolves, so to speak.
After she left the hospital, Sandy returned home. The Binion family was already inside, and according to Sandy, they were removing valuable objects. Ted's estate attorney, James Brown, was there to meet Sandy on the front step.
He had told me that I wasn't welcome there and that I needed to call him and that I could come home later. He was very hostile and he shut the door in my face.
But the next day she was back, this time with her lover Rick Tabish and a video camera. James Brown was there to watch her every move. It was a battle for control of Ted's estate, and tempers began to flare within minutes.
You lie to the cops and tell them I'm a resident of California. You come in here and tell me that you guys are in here on good terms and you're in here loading up my f***ing. That's my purse, Jimmy. Please stay out of it.
Did you just bring it in here?
Yes, I did. Please stay out of it.
This videotape would be Sandy's attempt at creating an inventory of the contents of the house as the family began to remove items from it.
I'm gonna leave the Luther Gunther, but I'm gonna take the Vargas because I don't trust it, and if it's gone, I'm screwed.
I just thought for sure that there was something funny going on and it made me really uncomfortable. And I just wanted to protect myself.
All this stuff, when I left my house, was in the garage and it's all been taken out. No, I want everyone to see everything.
The fight over Ted Binion's estate was only just beginning. Within 24 hours, it would turn into a full-scale war. The tide began to turn at 2 a.m. on a desert highway in the small town of Pahrump, Nevada. A local sheriff noticed a group of men removing boxes from a hole in the ground and loading them onto a truck. The group's leader was Rick Tabish. The payload was 48,000 pounds of silver, Ted Binion silver. Rick explained to police that he wasn't taking the silver for himself, but was acting on a verbal agreement he had made with Ted when the vault was built. The police didn't believe Rick and hauled him in for questioning.
I want to talk to the attorney, but the thing is, I've got nothing to hide here. I mean, I'd have to be a complete fool to come out and load a steel trailer full of silver and think I'm going to steal it in broad daylight.
Within hours, the police would learn all about Rick's relationship with Ted, and they would hear about Rick's affair with Sandy. Police believe it had the makings of a conspiracy to commit murder. So did the Binion family. In the weeks that followed, the family hired a private investigator, a former homicide detective named Tom Diller. To build a case against Rick and Sandy, Diller interviewed dozens of people, including Ted's housekeeper, who told him that Sandy sent her home on the morning Ted died.
Sandy usually never called the housekeeper. It had never happened before. So, unusual circumstance there.
That wasn't all. Just days before Ted's death, his video surveillance system broke down, knocking out any chance of a recording of the crime. And detectives uncovered a plot where Rick allegedly tried to hire a former coworker to kill a Las Vegas casino owner named Ted. Nearly all this information came courtesy of the Binion family and its private eye, Tom Dillard. That evidence would be shaped by police into a strong circumstantial case against Sandy and Rick.
At that point, I was kind of afraid of the police. I just thought they were so far in with the Binions, and I didn't know how far they were willing to take it for the family.
On March 15th, 1999, the Clark County Coroner's Office reversed course and officially declared Ted Binion's death a homicide. The Binion family had turned the tables. Now the odds were in their favor.
We're investigating all the circumstances surrounding the death. We're looking for business documents, personal documents, correspondence, items named in the search warrant.
Up next, police continue to look for clues.
We didn't have a smoking gun.
But they think they have Ted Binion's killers in their sights.
They were both guilty of murder.
After months of investigation, Sandy Murphy and Rick Tabish were arrested. The charges included the theft of silver worth millions and the murder of Las Vegas legend Ted Binion. If convicted, They were facing life sentences. Their upcoming trial had all the trappings of a blockbuster. Two young, good-looking defendants and a powerful casino family determined to seek justice. The trial would open on March 27, 2000. And given the combination of money, drugs, and sex, it quickly became one of the most sensational in the storied history of Las Vegas. The trial was broadcast live, gavel to gavel.
You had media from all over. The courtroom was just jam-packed every single day, and it was standing room only. And you turn on the TV, you couldn't miss it. It was constant.
Rick and Sandy didn't testify, but their behavior in the courtroom was the kind of stuff that tabloids love.
They were giggling and laughing with each other. That came across as being cocky. We got away with it.
When Sandy walked in with her ankle monitor painted to match her outfit, Joseph Bonaventure, the no-nonsense judge, was not pleased. And he didn't like Sandy's constant asides to her attorney.
Don't whisper to Mr. Marmot. You better have some attention here. You better...
If she had been taken out of the will, she would have inherited nothing.
Make sure you get all this. Are you taking my other...
The prosecution then seized on Sandy's videotape that she had shot in the home she and Binion shared. It was an ironic twist. The tape was made by Sandy to prove that the Binion family was making off with her possessions. Now the tape and Sandy's behavior were being used against her.
I'm sorry, Jimmy. I thought you were my friend. Now I don't know what to trust you.
The house was absolutely looted. So she was pissed because of that. And it came off as indignant and sort of a cockiness. It didn't...
I was drinking out of the bottle, and my mother had scolded me, and she was present during this terrible moment. And so she made me pour it in a glass. But the light was out in the kitchen, so I just picked up the glass and went over and turned the light on and changed it to a different hand. And then I saw the lawyer coming in with the camera, so I just backed the alcohol out of the view of the camera.
The glass was never found. According to prosecutors, drugging Ted was just the first step. They turned to forensic expert Dr. Michael Bodden to prove exactly how Sandy and Rick killed Ted. It was a bombshell. Bodden concluded that Ted Binion was killed by an obscure 19th century technique called burking. His theory was that Sandy and Rick gave Ted a powerful cocktail of Xanax and heroin, and while one held Ted down, the other, probably Sandy, sat on Ted's chest to suffocate him.
It's a way of not leaving evidence behind that someone was suffocated, that the impact of her hands and her body pressed his buttons into his chest, causing marks that you could see.
And the proof was in the photos. Bodden claimed that these marks were caused when Rick and Sandy pressed down on Ted's chest.
What floored me was that nobody objected.
The defense team tried to refute Bodden's theory by presenting its own experts, but it didn't match the dramatic picture painted by Dr. Bodden.
And I could see the jury. Well, you could see some of them were falling asleep, but they really paid attention to Michael Bodden.
The burking theory was the final piece of the puzzle. It helped to explain all of the other evidence. For Sandy and Rick, the motive was money, and the witnesses and other circumstantial evidence seemed to confirm that.
Well, I think halfway through the trial, you can almost see the defense attorneys almost give up.
Both Sandy and Rick made the decision not to testify. The defense rested. After 7 weeks, the case went to the jury. 8 days later, they returned with a verdict.
Conspiracy to commit murder and/or robbery. Guilty. Conspiracy to commit extortion. Guilty. Murder with use of a deadly weapon. Guilty.
The most infamous trial in the history of Vegas was over. Sandy and Rick were going to jail for life. The Binion family was vindicated. But Sandy Murphy was not done yet.
I already believed I was going to be found guilty when they came out before I heard the verdict. So then when I did hear the verdict and they said guilty, I just thought, how am I going to get out of this situation?
Coming up, authorities thought Ted Binion's killers had been locked up for good. But Sandy Murphy and Rick Tabish had a different plan. Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/PaulaZahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video. Following their conviction for the murder of Ted Binion, Sandy Murphy and Rick Tabish spent more than 4 years behind bars, but they never lost hope for a second chance. And although it's rare to win a retrial in a murder case, their appeal was granted. Now, the most famous trial in Las Vegas history would have a second act.
It's been hard and anxious. I've waited for this day for 5 years, so I'm with Sandy, and I want to get this over with.
October 2004. After 5 years in jail, Rick Tabish and Sandy Murphy were granted a second trial on a technicality. Once again, Sin City was gearing up for a blockbuster trial. The district attorney was confident that a conviction in the new trial would settle the case once and for all.
The evidence will show that Ted Binion was murdered because Sandra Murphy and Richard Tabish wanted him dead.
Murphy and Tabish did not make a good initial impression on the jurors.
She was not a very likable person, to be quite honest with you. You know, the word gold digger kept running through her head. Rick Tabish was also not a very nice person. He was another one that seemed to be following the money.
Sandy had a new lawyer, a former clerk to Judge Bonaventure named Michael Cristalli.
I had done a few murder cases, which included several capital murder trials as well, but certainly nothing of this magnitude.
Rick Tabish changed lawyers too. He hired legendary San Francisco-based attorney Tony Serra.
Jury trials are semantic warfare. If you have a large opponent, and in a street fight you're lucky enough to knock him down, you kick him.
We say the evidence will show no homicide.
Tony Serra. He made it a point of dressing poorly. His teeth are terrible, you know, they looked like they were rotting. He was very interesting to watch, but what he said made a lot of sense.
The trailer is literally bulging with silver.
The prosecution opened the case with a detailed breakdown of the charges against Sandy and Rick, including their whereabouts before and after the murder.
What the evidence will show is that Ted Binion's killers set out to poison him by using Xanax and heroin.
Witnesses recounted the statements Sandy and Rick made about Ted's impending death.
She discussed the future of Ted Binion.
He was going to die in approximately 3 weeks.
To some observers, it seemed like a rehash of the first trial, especially when the state returned to Dr. Michael Baden, the forensic scientist who came up with the so-called Burking theory to explain how Sandy and Rick must have killed Ted.
Burking is a type of suffocation in which the nose and mouth are obstructed and somebody sits on the chest, which prevents the diaphragms from moving up and down.
Once again, Dr. Baden pointed to the same small mark that was found on Ted's chest.
The button imprint marks are due to pressure on the chest.
But this time, the defense was ready for him. Michael Cristalli pointed out that Dr. Baden never even examined the body.
It's even more impossible if one is just relying on photographs, and that's what you did. You just relied on photographs.
The magnification of that photograph was absolutely significant because it identified the mark as a lesion and not a pressure mark, which completely undermined the entire theory of Baden's testimony.
I expected to see a very clear button mark, but what I actually saw when the picture was enlarged was a blister.
Other experts were called in to dispute Dr. Boden's claim that Sandy and Rick had mixed up a cocktail of heroin and Xanax and forced it down Ted's throat.
Black tar heroin is not dissolvable in any type of substance aside from alcohol. There was no alcohol in Ted Binion's system.
The big moment in the trial for me is when I started crossing Boden, and I can see that I disrupted his emotional stability.
Your theory goes out the window, doesn't it?
No.
Dr. Boden was unavailable to do an interview, but he told us he still stands behind his findings. After the defense attacked Dr. Boden's theory, they turned their attention to the work done by the Binion family's private investigator, Tom Dillard. There was a money trail, and the defense had the goods they needed to expose it.
Tom Dillard, who was hired by the estate of Ted Binion, was paid probably in excess of $400,000 to fuel this investigation, with him working directly with the state of Nevada and the district attorney's office.
Over the course of the 6-week trial, defense lawyers were able to show that nearly all of the state's key witnesses were paid reward money by Tom Dillard.
They shell out $20,000 to one witness, $20,000 to another witness, $10,000 to one other witness, $5,000 to another witness.
My feeling was you should never pay witnesses because they are, maybe not even intentionally, but they're going to say what you want them to say.
The state's case, the murder conviction, the conspiracy, the whole thing was starting to unravel. The Binion family was now being portrayed in court as a dark force for injustice, working hand in hand with the district attorney and the Las Vegas Police Department. Then the prosecutors played the videotape of Sandy rifling through the drawers and fighting about possessions. It was dramatic, but to the jurors, Sandy's anger was understandable.
It's in the garage and it's all been taken out.
What came to my mind was, she's really upset. They have lied about her living there. They threw her out of the house. I'm not sure a lot of people would have acted differently.
What more can an innocent person do? He's innocent!
Attorney Tony Serra's closing argument became a tirade against the Binion family.
What I feared about the jury is that they would ultimately be supplicant to what I have called the reigning power of Las Vegas, the so-called casino royalty.
Despite the theatrics and all the evidence, the jury was split when it started deliberations.
5 guilty, 7 not guilty.
After 4 long days of deliberations, the jury returned its verdict. First, the charges against Rick.
We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Richard Bennett Tabish, not guilty.
Rick's sigh of relief was quickly silenced by what came next.
Now, after we did that, we took another vote in terms of burglary. Unanimously, we all felt they were guilty.
Rick Tabish remains in state prison, although he believes he should have been released by now.
I did the time, I expired it statutorily, and I can't even get them to grant me my time served. They're pissed off and they're taking it out on somebody, and I guess I'm the one.
The jury then moved on to the murder charges against Sandy Murphy.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Sandra Renee Murphy, not guilty.
Not guilty. After 5 years in jail and countless hours in the center ring of a media circus, Sandy Murphy was a free woman.
I just was relieved and a little overwhelmed. When I walked back out in the free world, there was so many media members. It was a little overwhelming, but I was very grateful to walk out of that courthouse.
Sandy Murphy was able to walk away from the burglary charges with time served. She was soon back in court fending off a wrongful death suit brought by the estate. That case was dismissed in 2007. She then tried to collect her share of Ted's estate, although what was left of it was smaller than expected.
Just little money, probably just a couple $1,000,000.
She lost that case, but Sandy Murphy is determined to overturn the remaining felony charge on her record, her conviction on the theft of Ted's silver.
I I've spent over $5 million and 5 years of my freedom. Why would I quit now? So many people worked so hard who believed in me when nobody else did. And I just feel like it's my duty to see it through and to just make it right, not only for myself and for my family, but for all those people who stood behind me.
Ted Binion was one of Sin City's most flamboyant characters. To some, his death remains one of the city's darkest secrets. But to others, Ted Binion's death was the sad, accidental ending to a troubled life.
I think Ted Binion killed himself. I don't think he was murdered. I don't think it was sinister. I think some dumb things were done, you know, by Sandy and Rick, but that doesn't mean they committed murder.
Some of the mysteries surrounding the Ted Binion story are still unresolved. An estimated $3.5 million worth of rare silver coins from Ted's prize collection are missing and have yet to be recovered. I'm Paula Zahn. See you here next time when we're back on the case. Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/Paula Zahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video.
I've never said anything about the family, and out of respect for Teddy, I don't think he'd appreciate it if I ever did. So whatever secrets that I know of, when Teddy died, they died with him, and it's really not my business.
A mother of 3 found dead in her car.
This was not a single car fatality. It wasn't what it appeared to be.
A tragic end for someone who seemed to have it all. Loving kids, a dream home, and a brilliant husband.
He loved his wife, he loved his career, and he was happy.
But the couple's happiness wouldn't last.
He really was a house of cards waiting to fall.
She was being controlled. And yes, indeed, controlled by him.
She starts an affair with devastating consequences.
I don't know if it was love at first sight, but there was an instant attraction.
He had a tape of him and his wife having sex. He demanded $500,000.
A collision of 3 lives, a nightmare of jealousy, blackmail, then murder.
You admit here that you pushed her too hard and that she hit the floor.
Once you knew what had happened to you, the police come to visit you. I'm Paula Zahn, on the case in New York. Tonight, we begin in a wealthy New Jersey suburb, an hour's drive south of here. Jonathan Nice was the rarest of men, a brilliant scientist with an uncanny business sense. It earned him a fortune and a piece of the American dream. But it all vanished in an instant with a tragic act of violence that unearthed a story no one could have imagined. On a bitterly cold January night, a car slid down a steep ravine and crashed into a snowy embankment. Workmen spotted the car the following morning. A woman was slumped behind the wheel. They notified police. To detectives, the scene looked suspicious almost immediately.
The first thing that we noticed that stood out right away was there was blood on the outside of the vehicle. Michelle Nice's body was located in the driver's seat on the inside of the vehicle. If this was a motor vehicle accident where the body is inside the car, why would there be blood on the outside of the car?
It was immediately apparent to me that that accident, the alleged accident, did not cause those injuries to Michelle.
Detectives also found a pool of blood in the front seat and a suitcase that appeared to be hastily packed in the back. There was a bloody palm print on the door, and perhaps most tellingly, detectives spotted fresh footprints in the snow leading away from the SUV.
This was a very cold, bitter cold morning. There was snow on the ground in this particular area. It was fresh snow, and we observed a set of what appeared to be human footprints.
We had footprints coming from the passenger side of the vehicle that went across the creek over to the other side.
Suspicious death, I would say. Normally, we wouldn't classify something as a homicide right away, but certainly we suspected foul play right away.
Detectives knew the dead woman behind the wheel, Michelle Nice, a suburban wife and a mother of 3 who lived nearby. It was a tragic end for a woman who had come to America in search of a better life and thought she had found one. Michelle grew up in a very poor region of the Philippines.
They were very, very impoverished, but she was very, very bright and she was very ambitious.
By the age of 19, one of her greatest ambitions was to find a way out of poverty and a way out of the Philippines. Michelle posted personal ads in a Manila newspaper and met an American named Jonathan Nice.
They exchanged addresses, and they had this relationship going by mail. So I felt that was a wonderful thing.
Jonathan Nice was a very insecure young man. I mean, socially, he was not very good at making friends. He was very much a loner, I think, and he always found it hard to have social relations with people.
Nice was a talented researcher with a PhD in biology. As a university professor in North Carolina, he developed a treatment for asthma.
He was very, very successful, self-made man. He was an entrepreneur.
Jonathan Nice might have been successful, but he was also lonely. And after a year of romantic letters and intimate phone calls, he fell in love with Michelle, a woman half his age and half a world away.
She was very attractive. She had a very young image. Michelle had a bubbly attitude, always had a sense of humor, laughing all the time.
But there was something about Nice she didn't know. In his letters, he had portrayed himself as a much younger man.
During the pen pal letters, they'd exchanged photographs, and Michelle sent a really beautiful photograph of herself, and the one Jonathan sent was this handsome, strapping young man in his early 20s.
Nice was actually a man nearing 40, with thinning hair and an expanding waistline. He'd already married and divorced once. Eager to meet his new love, he flew to the Philippines.
When she took a first look at him, she just couldn't believe that was Jonathan Nice. And she really, I've heard from the father and also from her best friend, she took one look at him and wanted to run.
Her first gut feeling was, he's a lot older. But as she got to know him, he seemed very boyish. And she liked that. Very young at heart.
Despite that first impression, the courtship moved forward with lightning speed. They were married within a week of first setting eyes on each other.
She was interested in having a family, and that was what I wanted to do. And here's this beautiful young woman who I am smitten with, wanting to marry me, and I said okay.
But Michelle didn't know their new life together was built in part on a foundation of white lies. Jonathan shaved 8 years off his age on the marriage certificate. He would soon take her away from her friends and family in the Philippines and expose her to a whole new world back in the United States. At this point, he held all the cards in the relationship.
In a situation where a woman doesn't have income, where her immigration status may be in his control as opposed to her own control, where she has no friends or family or support network, I mean, I think he would exercise a lot of power over her.
Those issues would soon become a reality for Michelle. Maybe she should have sensed trouble. When they returned to the United States, the reactions of Jonathan's friends and family to the marriage were lukewarm at best.
None of his colleagues could quite believe it because she just appeared out of nowhere. He told no one that he was dating, he wanted to marry someone.
Despite that reaction, newlyweds Michelle and Jonathan happily settled into married life in their North Carolina home.
Describe the early days of your marriage, when you were starting your family together.
It was the happiest time of my life. We had started a family right away.
In an exclusive interview with On the Case, Dr. Nice sat down to talk about his life and his relationship with Michelle, starting with their return to America.
And it was just wonderful. We played tennis every afternoon and went to the Outer Banks on vacations, and just wonderful.
And things were about to get better. Jonathan's promising asthma drug would soon make him an incredibly wealthy man. Up next, the Nices had everything they ever dreamed of, but their lives were about to turn into a nightmare.
I thought I was an attentive husband, but I did not see the cause of what was happening to her.
Jonathan Nice had it all: a solid career, a beautiful wife, and now 3 young children, a perfect family. And when his pharmaceutical company made them millionaires, the Nices moved to an upscale suburb in central New Jersey. It was everything they had ever wanted, but there was a dark undercurrent that was about to turn their American dream into a nightmare.
At first, the Nices seemed like any other family in the neighborhood. For Jonathan and Michelle, life revolved around work and their 3 young children.
She was a sweet, kind person who cared a lot about her children, and she had a very good character.
What were the days like then when you moved the family to New Jersey?
At the time we moved to New Jersey, my salary had gotten quite high, so we were able to save up and afford a big home. So it seemed like we were accelerating even further. So I was ecstatic. Now I had my complete family, beautiful wife and 3 wonderful children. My company was going very well. I had just executed about $110 million deal with a Japanese pharma company.
Although the couple seemed happy together, Jonathan had a jealous side, and he started keeping close tabs on Michelle, something even a friend noticed when they were out.
She was very attractive. We would go to pizza places, and men would look at her. I was very uncomfortable because he would call her everywhere. Where are you? Who are you with?
People would tell me they'd be at a party and his eyes would never leave her. He'd be following her wherever she went. He never liked her talking to any men. He didn't like her going to a gym. In fact, he was so scared of her going to a gym that he insisted on building her a gym in the house for her so she wouldn't have to go out and have to associate with men.
At the start of their marriage, Michelle depended on her husband for everything. But by the time she reached her 30s, she had become much more independent. She even landed a modeling job, but tearfully had to turn it down.
This is a brand new career for her, and Jonathan was so selfish that he wouldn't allow her to do it. Then I knew she was being controlled, and yes, indeed, controlled by him.
One thing Jonathan seemed happy to let Michelle control was fixing up their home. Michelle ordered $50,000 worth of new trees to landscape the yard. The nursery sent over a young gardener who called himself Castaneda. Michelle was intensely attracted to him.
There was a mutual attraction, a physical attraction, but from all my research, I don't think anything happened for about 3 or 4 months until after they met. They were meeting for lunches, they were meeting at other times, and I think they just talk. And eventually, it kind of escalated into a full-blown affair.
I was totally unaware of her having any affair. I was shocked when I found out, as I am still now.
Dr. Nice became suspicious after finding a strange number on Michelle's cell phone. When he confronted her, she confessed to the affair.
Her behavior changed dramatically sometime in 2002. And I thought I was an attentive husband, but I did not see the cause of what was happening to her.
What kind of changes did you notice in her?
Well, we all noticed it. My children and I noticed it. She became aggressive, paranoid, and I just couldn't understand it.
The Nice marriage was in turmoil, filled with jealousy and anger. And things were about to take a dramatic turn for the worse. Jonathan says he received a call from a man threatening to release sex tapes of Michelle unless he ponied up $500,000.
As it turns out, the phone calls were made from a Shell gas station on Route 1.
That gas station was across the street from the motel where Michelle and Castaneda would meet.
And then he confronted Michelle, saying, I've just had a call from someone claiming they've got a sex tape.
Michelle promised to end the affair, but the problems and the pressure kept mounting.
When Michelle broke off her relationship with Castaneda, he didn't take no for an answer.
Nice says Castaneda started stalking Michelle, so he filed complaints with the police and a local court.
Isn't it true that a restraining order was ultimately issued and he was told to stay away from her
Exactly.
for a certain period of time?
2 years. We went to court and we got a restraining order against Castaneda.
A judge ordered the Nices and Castaneda to stay away from each other.
He acted like there wasn't any restraining order at all. He followed Michelle around. He would park outside of our development and wait for her to come home, and then
that all went out of the window.
With tensions at home rising, Michelle found a job as a beauty consultant at a local department store.
She loves cosmetics. She loves perfume. She loves to be around that. And so I really didn't question her. I figured, oh, well, Michelle wants to get away from the house. I mean, she is around the kids all the time, and it was an outlet for her.
But despite her pledge to her husband and the restraining order, she took advantage of the freedom she discovered with her new job by reconnecting with her lover Castaneda. Things at the Nice home were becoming unbearable.
They were having a lot of acrimony at the last year of their marriage. They were having stand-up fights. Jonathan remembers one day she walked into his office and just threw everything on the floor from his desk and screamed at him. She'd swear at him.
Something was bound to give. And on a bitterly cold January night, it finally did. Michelle Nice and the gardener she couldn't resist decided to meet. The consequences would be devastating. Coming up, Michelle Nice's death is ruled a homicide. Police focus on two suspects, her husband and her lover.
I think he sat right on top of her, drove it into the creek, got out the passenger side, walked across the creek, and back home.
Jonathan Nice's business crumbled, and so did his marriage. His wife, Michelle, had pledged to stop seeing her lover, but it turned out to be an empty promise. It all ended bitterly and violently, with Michelle found dead in her car. The temperature that January morning was in the single digits when detectives got to the crime scene. They found a car at the bottom of the ravine. A woman slumped behind the wheel.
The airbags were actually intact. There was very little damage to the car. In fact, the passenger compartment of the car where the driver sits was virtually fine. There was no damage to that area.
Investigators immediately noticed that Michelle had serious head wounds that were not consistent with the accident.
When I approached the vehicle, immediately my first concern was that the damage to the vehicle did not appear to be consistent with what we would normally find with a fatal motor vehicle accident.
They also noticed that the front seat was pushed back too far for Michelle's foot to reach the gas pedal, and that there were fresh footprints in the snow leading away from the SUV.
I just looked down at the footprint, and I wear a size 10.5, and I knew that the footprint was significantly larger than certainly my foot. So right away, just in my unscientific view, we were looking for someone who had fairly large feet.
When a wife is murdered, suspicions often focus on the husband. In this case, there was also a lover, the mysterious gardener Castaneda. Police question him.
His story was that he did in fact see Michelle Nice that night, that they met at this motel located nearby. They had a sexual affair, and after their sexual affair, he drove her to her car and she left, and then he went home.
During the interrogation, Detective Jeffrey Noble also compared the size of the snowy footprints found at the scene to the size of Castaneda's shoes.
He was a size 9, so the shoes he was wearing certainly were not the same shoes that created those footwear patterns out at the scene.
Police then turned their attention to Dr. Nice. When questioned, he told them Michelle had threatened to leave him during a heated argument. He said that conversation took place around 4 p.m. the previous day. He insisted that that was the last time he saw her.
And he said that they would always argue when she talked about moving out. And I said, well, when's the last time you had that conversation? He said, last night. 2 hours before, he's telling me that the last time he sees her is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now he's telling me that, hey, I talked to her last night.
Detective McEwen felt Nice was lying about when he last saw Michelle, and a lot of other things as well.
Based on what he said, there were a lot of red flags that came up. The way he explained it to me, we found a lot of inconsistencies, and Jonathan started going from a person of interest to a suspect.
Police got a search warrant and headed to the Nice home. What they found was nightmarish. In the basement, they located cut-up pieces of large boots that appeared to match the snowy footprints.
There was also a saw that was located in the basement. When we looked at the saw carefully, we found little pieces, particles of this rubber that was similar to the soles, to the pieces of the cut-up soles that we had found.
And they found traces of blood all over the house.
In the garage, we found blood spatter, we found blood transfer, we found bloody paper towels, we found evidence that someone had actually cleaned up to some extent.
They are telling me they have found blood, Michelle's blood, in my garage, and on paper towels in the basement, and on a bath mat in my daughter's room.
They also found it on a snowblower in the garage, on a wet vacuum in the garage.
When detectives confronted Nice with the evidence they discovered in the house, the interview reached a turning point.
The first part of the interview, Jonathan was being Jonathan. Arrogant, denying everything. You know, it wasn't me, you need to look at Castaneda. And finally, you could see that Detective Skull was just wearing him down.
Now, after hours of careful questioning, the truth started spilling out. While a tape recorder rolled, an emotional Dr. Nice began to describe what happened when Michelle came home the night before.
And then, for some reason, she called me a freak. I don't know why. I was just asking her questions about where she was.
Nice confronted Michelle in the garage and says she tried to kill him.
She took something out of her Chanel bag and lunged at me, right at my face, right at my neck.
He said what happened next was a tragic accident.
She just flew out and hit with a sickening thunk with her head on the pavement.
Nice told police that he went to a cabinet to get bandages for her head. But when he tried to help her, she started flailing away. Then, in what he described as an attempt to control her, he kneeled on her back and pounded her head into the concrete, trying to stop her. He said she quit moving. She stopped breathing. She was dead. With their 3 children asleep in the house, Nice decided to cover up the struggle in the garage by staging a car accident.
He says that he knows now she's gone. He then follows that up with something to the effect of, I thought it was the best idea to run her into a tree to make it look like an accident.
My only thought was, what will this appear to the kids? It's a really bad thing for them to find out that their mother tried to kill their father. I didn't want them to live with that. I don't want them to live to grow up screwed up.
Nice said he placed his dead wife behind the wheel of the car and slid back the driver's seat. What detectives had noticed at the crime scene now suddenly made sense.
She's 5 foot, that seat was all the way back. When we found her, her legs didn't even reach the gas pedal. They were nowhere near the gas pedal. There's no way she drove that truck or would drive that truck in the past with that seat where it was. I think he sat right on top of her. Drove it into the creek, got out the passenger side, walked across the creek, and back home.
After staging the accident about a mile from his home, Nice returned to clean up the crime scene with paper towels and hydrogen peroxide.
It was a pretty crappy cleanup job, as you know. I put it in white plastic garbage bags and stuck it in the weekly trash. I mean, that's as stupid as you can get.
Jonathan Nice had confessed to accidentally killing his wife while defending himself. Detectives weren't convinced. They believed they were dealing with a jealous husband who had just committed murder.
He couldn't handle the fact that his wife wanted to be with someone else, and he murdered her.
There was never any evidence that we found to suggest that she attacked him. What we did find was an abundance of evidence that he killed her purposely by smashing her head into the floor.
Prosecutors agreed. They charged Dr. Nice with first-degree murder. Coming up, a riveting 7-week trial and a stunning verdict as Jonathan Nice has his day in court.
When you're Mrs. Jonathan Nice, your husband doesn't just kill you. He thereafter maligns your character and lies to get away with your murder.
When Jonathan Nice was charged with murdering his wife, Michelle, the news stunned everyone. As the story played out in a courtroom, it ripped the lid right off the image of a happy marriage. The 7-week trial would be an unvarnished look into a failed family with some very dark secrets. During a blistering heat wave in a crowded courtroom in Trenton, New Jersey, Jonathan Nice went on trial for first-degree murder. The temperatures inside the courthouse often surpassed the record highs rising off city streets.
It had a lot of evidence, it had a lot of emotion, it had a lot of screaming and yelling, both in front of me and on sidebar.
Jonathan Nice, out on bail, would arrive every morning wearing a suit and tie.
You look every inch the businessman. If you were coming up in the elevators, you never would have thought he was a murder defendant. He didn't act like one.
Prosecutors portrayed Nice as a jealous and angry man who would say anything about his wife to stay out of prison.
When you're Mrs. Jonathan Nice, your husband doesn't just kill you. He thereafter maligns your character and lies to the police, your family, and your friends, all in an effort to literally get away with your murder.
Nice's attorney, Robin Lord, tried to get the jury to focus on Michelle as a cheating wife who provoked her husband.
I'm not going to weave a tale of woe as the prosecution did and offer excuses for infidelity, excuses for affairs, excuses for staying out all night and not being home with the family. Excuses for putting a man on trial for a crime he did not commit.
Lord dramatically displayed the contents of the suitcase found in Michelle's car, making it clear that the sexy lingerie inside was meant for an encounter with her lover. The judge stopped her, but the damage was done.
Jonathan's lawyers throughout the trial portrayed Michelle as a slut and a whore and someone that was constantly cheating on her husband. There was never any warmth. There was never anything in the trial to show Michelle as a woman.
The testimony of Michelle's lover was pivotal. During tense exchanges with the defense attorney, he denied extorting money from Nice or stalking Michelle. But he admitted to a long-term affair that lasted until the night she died. Finally, Nice's confession was played for the court, where he claimed that Michelle attacked him and he was acting in self-defense.
For some reason, she did not move her limbs the way I would have expected, the way I would have moved even with lorazepam. She just flew out and hit with a sickening thunk with her head on the pavement.
After the defense rested, Judge Mathesius gave final instructions to the jury. Though the original charge was first-degree murder, he told the jury it could consider a lesser charge known as passion provocation, which means the crime may have happened in the heat of an argument provoked by Michelle's affair. It was a controversial decision.
That's part of our jury system in Jersey. You have to have every possible opportunity to make a verdict other than the highest available.
Now it was up to the jury. A murder conviction could send Dr. Nice to prison for life. A passion provocation manslaughter conviction would mean a much lighter sentence. After 3 days of deliberation, a verdict.
How do you find as to count one of the indictment, charging defendant Jonathan Nice with murder?
Not guilty of first-degree murder. Michelle's father and sister, who flew in from the Philippines for the trial, were stunned. Then the verdict on the lesser count.
Guilty of provocation. Guilty of passion provocation manslaughter. It wasn't that all complicated. He was considered to have been provoked, and the passion within him made the crime.
Nice was also convicted of tampering with evidence for staging the car accident and trying to clean up the crime scene. Instead of facing 30 years to life for first-degree murder, Nice was looking at 15 or less. The judge sentenced Nice to 8 years in prison.
8 or 9 years in jail is no fun for anybody, and anybody who thinks it is can try it for a day or two and see if they like it.
I think Dr. Nice got away to an extent with having such a short sentence with this passion provocation.
Coming up, Jonathan Nice still insists he's an innocent man, but now he's telling a very different story.
You are accepting this as an actual transcript.
This was entered into a court of law.
It doesn't mean it's accurate.
Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/paulizon and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video.
From a prison cell in New Jersey, Jonathan Nice is now mounting an aggressive campaign to clear his name. He claims that he was framed, that the case against him was a fraud. He blames investigators and even his own lawyer. It's a stunning and curious turnaround from a man who once admitted he killed his wife and staged the car accident where her body was found. You basically told the detectives.
No, I didn't.
That you were in the garage with her.
She never came home. I was not in the garage with her.
You admit here that you pushed her too hard and that she hit the floor.
You are accepting this as an actual transcript.
This was entered into a court of law.
It doesn't mean it's accurate.
In the story Nice is telling now, Michelle never came home the night she died. Nice claims Michelle's lover, Castaneda, lured her to Mount's Motel under false pretenses, where he threw her off the second-floor balcony. Nice says Michelle's head injuries would be consistent with a fall from that height.
The only place in the police record where Michelle was at a height was at this place, Mount's Motel. That's the only place. The railing outside room 202 of Mount's Motel is the only place where she could have fallen.
Investigators who question Castaneda say his story, that he had consensual sex with Michelle and then drove her back to her car, checked out.
I was involved in depth with checking on his story, and his story checked out.
There is no evidence to support Nice's theory. He is not an expert on head wounds, and his new version of events was never presented in court.
But that's not even what your own defense attorney argued in court. She argued, and we even have your own words on tape.
You don't have, you have words on tape.
I have the interrogation. Is this or is this not your voice when police question you? Is that or is that not your voice?
It is my voice, but you can take what I am telling you now, and with software on anyone's computer, on the computer that you might have here right now, where you have the oscillogram, you can make anyone say whatever they want you to say.
You're telling me these are your words, but not in the order that you use them, that they spliced this together to build the same scenario that your defense attorney presented in court?
They edited out things, all of my caveats.
Nice claims that police edited the interrogation tapes and doctored the transcripts, making him confess to a crime he didn't commit.
Let's go back to your own words, and let me read back to you from this transcript what you told police investigators. The bottom line is that I have not a bad thought in my heart about her. I was more trying to catch her, and I know I pushed her to the ground, but I was just trying to control her so that I could be a loving influence her than anything else.
This is 1 hour after 4 hours are missing. You don't have this in context.
That's not what you told police here. I have hours of these transcripts.
No, you don't have
of these
hours.
conversations you had with police.
What they should have said when they left that interrogation room is not that they have a confession. They should have said, we can make a confession out of this, because that's what they did.
Nice's claims of doctored tapes and altered transcripts are flatly denied by police.
I apologize for laughing, but it's just, I'm hearing this for the first time. I mean, tomorrow, I can't wait to see what he's going to say tomorrow.
The tapes were critical to the case against him, but Nice says he might never have spoken to police if he had had a lawyer with him. He now says police denied him that right.
We can hear on the tape you waving your Miranda rights, saying that you understood that you had the right to counsel.
You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you were being questioned, if you wish. Do you understand those rights still at this time, sir?
In the fifth hour, it's over. The fifth hour, I was defeated. I was a zombie at that point.
Nice also says he has no memory of a video confession he made in open court when his lawyer was present.
Did you or did you not say to the judge in the courtroom, it was an accident?
I don't remember saying that.
Here's the actual tape from court.
I've never, ever had ill intent toward my wife at any point, and what happened was a pure accident.
Another key piece of evidence that helped convict Dr. Nice was his wife's blood, which was found all over his house and garage. Nice now says what detectives really found was merely reddish-brown paint, not traces of Michelle's blood.
And when we go through the evidence, you'll see that these were, by the own New Jersey State Police forensic report, false.
So what you're saying today, that none of this blood was ever found. But in court, this is what your defense attorney, she didn't question this.
And now I'm paying for that. Their own forensic reports say otherwise.
We asked an independent DNA expert to evaluate the crime lab's blood report. Dr. Lawrence Kobylinski is a DNA forensics expert and a professor at John Jay College in New York.
Scientifically, we're dealing with blood and nothing else.
I've concluded after looking at the reports developed by the Jersey State Police that, number one, the items that they looked at were human blood, and that the DNA product that they got as a result of DNA testing belonged to the victim, Michelle Nice. There is absolutely no evidence of contamination.
Remember the footprints leading away from the crime scene? Nice now says they couldn't have been made by him.
When you measure them, you will see they're not what the police claimed to me or to the jury, size 12. They're 9.5. Please, look at the objective evidence. I could not confess to leaving someone else's footprints behind.
Once again, investigators say the evidence is a slam dunk, linking Nice to the crime. These are pictures of the cut-up soles investigators found scattered around Nice's basement.
We brought these pieces to our laboratory, and our scientists were able to piece together these soles. And when they pieced together the soles, they formed two soles of two separate boots, a left sole and a right sole. The pattern of those soles matched the footprints that were in the snow that were leaving the car that Michelle Nice was found in.
Today, Nice argues that virtually every piece of evidence used against him was fabricated. We asked him why he didn't make that same defense in court.
You're a smart enough man to know that when you're in the courtroom, you're expected to tell the truth. And you're telling me today that you sat there and you listened to your own defense attorney.
My defense attorney...
Put out a story that wasn't true.
I don't know where you're getting this.
Your defense attorney was arguing on your behalf that you ended up killing her, but that it was an accident.
Absolutely, she argued that. Because she did not understand, as no one... I mean, I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone.
How could you sit in court day after day after day and listen to your defense attorney?
My attorney told me.
Put out an argument to the jury that you're now telling me today simply didn't happen.
My attorney advised me, Dr. Nice, it's not about the truth. It's about who can make the best story with the facts in evidence. That's what she said. That is an exact quote.
A cynical person could argue that you went along with this version of the story, that you told police because you knew that if your defense attorney could successfully argue that in some way this was a crime of passion and that you defended yourself and your wife ended up dying as a result of an accident, the sentence would be a fraction of what sentence you would get if it was considered murder.
I'm a scientist. I didn't know anything about the law. Didn't know anything about passion provocation. I did not know any of that. I'm a scientist.
We contacted attorney Robin Lord, who informed us Dr. Nice wouldn't give her permission to speak with us. There is nothing to indicate that her defense of Jonathan Nice was anything less than competent. In fact, given that he was convicted for manslaughter and not murder, many observers wonder why Dr. Nice would even challenge the evidence and outcome of his case. Forensic psychologist N.G. Burrell believes time spent behind bars can dramatically change a person's thinking.
I think that over time you sit in jail and depending on their personality style or structure, they can't live with the reality of what it is they've done for many reasons. And some of them may be even understandable. And then they go a little bit off the deep end and they come up with a completely different story. And that story impresses everyone as absurd and ludicrous.
Dr. Nice's claims didn't move the judges of a New Jersey appeals court. They rejected all of his arguments. He is scheduled to serve out his full sentence for killing the woman he once said had turned his life into a fairy tale.
Michelle Nice was a person who was caught up in a bad marriage, didn't want to be in that marriage, and had nowhere to turn. The tragedy here is that there was nobody left to speak for Michelle.
Michelle's personality was one who would cheer you up if you were in a bad mood, make you feel happy, and she was a good person, good soul, and people liked her.
Michelle was buried in the small fishing village in the Philippines where she was born. Her family lost a custody battle over her 3 children. The kids are being raised by Jonathan Nice's family until his release from prison. I'm Paula Zahn. Please join us next time when we're back on the case.
Want more on the case? Go to investigationdiscovery.com/Paula Zahn and view more exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes video.
In your own appeal that you prepared yourself, you repeated this same story.
I did
that
not.
The night that Michelle came home, that there was an altercation between the 2 of you.
I don't know where you're getting this. This is.
We have it in the appeal.
I wrote the appeal. I did not say that. It's nowhere in the appeal.